My name is Francisco Hernandez, and I am one of the retirement plan advisors for the Texas Saver Plan. I personally cover South Texas. I was just talking before we started the presentation here that I was actually in Corpus today. So this morning I was at Corpus working with DPS down there. I made the drive back up here to make it back in time for the presentation. But I'm actually located in San Antonio, but I cover everything below Austin, all the way to Del Rio and Victoria as well. So yeah, what I'm here to talk about today is the 401k and the 457 and kind of how those just weave into all those benefits that Jennifer just spoke about, right? So now that we know that our pension may not cover as much as we thought it did, what options do we have to kind of have some additional income ready for us at retirement, right? All right. There we go. And so many financial advisors, if you look at that general advice out there, they're going to tell you that you need between 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement earnings to be comfortable in retirement, right? But that's if your expenses go down. If you're expecting your expenses to stay about the same, then maybe you want to save a little bit more than that. Of course, Social Security is always a hot topic, right? It's one of those legs of that three-legged stool. But it may not be enough. Most people are surprised when they look at their Social Security estimates to see how little it's going to be. And not only that is it going to be around by the time you start taking it? And if it is, it may be at a reduced benefit, right? And then, of course, the bad word, right? Inflation. Unfortunately, inflation is here to stay. Some years it grows faster than others, but just part of the way our economy works is that there is inflation, right? And we got to remember, it's not just the eggs, right? It's not just the milk. It's everything around us, right? Insurance premiums go up, right? With all these disasters going around with wildfires, that doesn't just affect California, that affects us, right? Because companies like USAA and Allstate that have insurance policies out there, they need to make that money up somewhere, right? So they raise everybody's insurance premiums across the board, right? So not only that, right? Roof repair. I got my roof repair earlier this year. Luckily, it was because of hail damage. So USAA covered most of that. I only had to pay my $2,000 deductible, but the total cost of the roof was $18,000. So imagine if you had to pay for that out of pocket, or if your insurance didn't want to cover most of that amount, right? Or maybe you don't have as good a deductible as I do. Maybe you're paying a percentage of your home value. And as home values go up, your taxes go up, and so do those deductibles that you have to pay, right? So inflation, remember, it's not just the eggs and the milk, it's everything around us too. All right. So, like Jennifer mentioned, right, that three-legged stool, that's how you build a solid foundation. For you guys, I mean, since you do have that better pension, as long as you hit that 20 years, you have the higher multiplier, you should get a really good amount from that ERS pension. Social Security, like I said, hopefully it'll be around. And if it is, that'll be a piece. But if you really want to enjoy retirement, you want to go out on vacations, you want to enjoy your hobbies, you want to do the things you want to do in retirement, you need that third leg, those personal savings. Of course, I'm going to harp on 401k, 457, because that's what I provide. That's what I can help with. But that's going to include anything else, right? That's going to be your savings account, checking accounts, outside investments, CDs, anything else, right? All bundled up together. This little puzzle piece right here, I love to show this slide because it just shows you how that's all going to fit together. While you're working, you're in that blue section, right? As cost of living goes up, um, you're getting cost of living adjustments, merit increases, promotions. So as life gets more expensive, you're getting paid more, right? Once you retire, though, now you got to piece it all together. Depending on what age you retire, you may have a gap, right? So that brown part, that's going to be your pension. It may only cover 50 for some of you if you only do the minimum amount of time, the 20 years. If you do a little bit more, it may cover more. But if you retire early, right? I saw that a lot of you are Group 1 employees. If you're eligible to retire in your 50s and you can't take Social Security till 62 at the earliest, how are you going to bridge that gap? Some of us may be okay with working a different job, start a second career, maybe a part-time job. Some of us just want to stay home, right? And if that's you, then how are you going to fill that gap until Social Security kicks in? right? And that's going to be where that third leg, those personal savings and the Texas Saver program are going to fit in. All right. So what the Texas Saver program offers is going to be both pre-tax and after tax Roth options on both the 401k and the 457. Automatic payroll deduction is a really big thing. It's always overlooked, but it's really important because if you don't ever see that money hit your checking account, you don't usually miss it. And that's just the truth, right? Personally, I've lived it. I worked at a credit union before I was here at Empower. They had a pension. They didn't have a 401, they had a 401k, but they didn't have a match. And so me being the smart financial advisor I am, I said, well, if they're not going to match me, I'm not going to contribute. I'm going to save it on my own. And I didn't save a penny that year. So the next year, I put it up to 6%, and I saved a little bit under $5,000 in that 1 year without a match. So just my own money. And I didn't miss it. I mean, maybe I ate out less. Maybe I bought my kids less toys. I mean, I don't know where that money came from, but I didn't miss it at all. Right. Um, so definitely that automatic payroll deduction, really, really important. Um, As far as managing your account, you can do that online or by phone. Personally, I like the website better because it offers better tools. It's a lot easier to get around. With the app, it's a lot of good information. It's a lot of information for a little screen, right? I will say that. But that'll get the job done. If all you want to do is just to check on your account, see how it's doing, look at your investments, or switch your investments, or change your contributions, you can do that all that on the phone, right? The user interface is really nice. Personally, like I said, I like the website just because I like the budgeting tools, the cash flow tools. It really helps you get a bigger picture view of your finances if you consolidate and add outside accounts as well. You also have the opportunity to roll over previous retirement accounts. So if you have any 401ks, IRAs, anything like that on the outside, you can also roll them into the 401k or 457. So you do have access to professional investment advice, not only myself, but if you ever needed to call our 800 number, they can get you in touch with the licensed advisor over the phone at any day of the week as well. So if I'm busy, I'm out doing a presentation somewhere in person, and you need to talk to somebody, you can call our customer service, and they'll get you in touch with an advisor as well. You can use this money to purchase service credits. So if you have pre-tax money and you want to buy some additional years, whether it be military time or additional service credit, if you're groups 1, 2, or 3, you can use this money to purchase that time. So you don't have to write them a check out of your checking account, right? When you do retire and you have your annual leave paid out to you, you can put it in the 401k or 457, right? That's going to allow you to defer those taxes. If you don't necessarily need that money right away, you can put it in your account, invest it for later, and you can defer those taxes to a future date. And then the flexible distribution options, I'll talk about that in a different slide. But just like Jennifer mentioned, right, it's going to be a little bit different than the pension. A lot of people think that they go together, and they don't. The pension is going to be its own thing. You're going to get a monthly payment from them. You get to choose how you take your distributions from either the 401k or 457. All right. Like I mentioned, rollovers, we can take about any type of account except for Roth IRAs. It's not included in the plan rules, so we just can't accept that type of money, but we can accept everything else, right? If you do have an account you would like to roll over, you can either call our 800 number and they'll get you in touch with a roll-in specialist. We have a whole department just dedicated to helping people roll money in. They'll get you the right forms. They'll help you with those forms, and they'll even call that third party, right, where your account is at, to make sure that they send the money to the right place, right? So it's a full service way to help you out, just to make sure that it doesn't become a taxable event, right? Um, I can also set you an appointment or any one of our retirement plan advisors. So if you want to kind of discuss the pros and cons of rolling money over before actually going through with it, you can set up an appointment with us, and we can always schedule you an appointment with the roll-in specialist as well. All right. So most of you should be automatically enrolled in that 401k unless you opted out. You can also choose that 457, or you can have both. You can do pre-tax and after-tax Roth money into either of the accounts. So a lot of people are under the misconception that you have to do pre-tax in the 401k and Roth in the 457. That's not the case. You can even have both types of money within one account, right? And then investment options, that's the same as well. You have target date funds, which is the default. If you didn't make any changes, that's what you're in. I'll talk about that more in another slide. You've got your core investments. That's going to be some mutual funds that the state has curated for you. They'll let you choose from if you want to create your own portfolio. And then if you want something more advanced, we do have an option for a self-directed brokerage account within the 401k or 457 that allow you to transfer some money over to Schwab, where you can choose any type of investments that are available on Schwab. So that'll be stocks, bonds, options, anything in that investment world. So that's going to be for sophisticated investors. So you just want to be careful with that because it is on your own, right? It is self-directed. We can't advise on that. All right. So the biggest difference here with the 401k and the 457 is going to be when you can access that money. For the 401k, it's going to be like every other retirement plan. That magic number is going to be 59 and a half, right? So if you take money out before 59 and a half, not only do you have to pay taxes on any deferred contributions, but you also have to pay a 10% penalty on top of that, right? With the 457, there is no early withdrawal penalty. Now, keep in mind, this is talking about withdrawals. With both of them, you have the option to loan, to borrow while you're still actively working. Withdrawals take place once you separate or retire and you're no longer working for the state. That's when those withdrawals would come in, right? Because once you leave, you can no longer borrow from your account. You have to withdraw. So if you fall under that group one, or group two, and you can retire a little bit earlier, right? Maybe even group three. And you're kind of a bit far away from that 59 and a half, right? It's going to be a big gap. And you may need some money, then the 457 may be a better option. If you plan on sticking it out past 59 and a half, either by choice or because you have to, right? The 401k then kind of becomes a better option. Why? Because if you see that second line item there under the 401k, past age 59 and a half, you can actually start doing in-service withdrawals. So you can actually withdraw from your 401k without having to pay it back after 59 and a half, even if you're still working. So it'll just give you some access to money after 59 and a half. With the 457, if you're still working, doesn't matter the age. If you're 7 years old and you're still working, the only way you can access that 457 money is going to be through a loan, not a withdrawal until you separate from service. Everything else is basically the same. They both have catch-up contributions, so you can save a little bit extra. The other differentiator is going to be that special 457 catch-up provision. So once you've maxed out your contributions and you still need a little bit extra space, there is a special 457 catch-up, which we'll talk about more in a bit. That's going to be another differentiator, but besides that, they're practically identical. All right, so the minimums is going to be 1% or $20. So if you wanted to start the 457 and you don't already have it, that's the minimum you would have to put in, either 1% a month or $20 a month. That's it. The maximums, if you're 49 or below, it's going to be 23,500 into each account. So each of them has their own separate limit. So if you're 49 or below, you can do a total of 47,000 into those two accounts combined, right? If you're age 50 and over, it's an additional 7,500, which puts you at 31,000 for the year. And then if you're between 60 and 63, you can do an additional 11,250 into each of those accounts on top of the base of 23.5. So even if you started late, I hear that a lot of people tell me, well, I started really late. I focused on paying off my house. Things like that, right? Or I was paying for college for my kids, right? But once those expenses go away, you have a little bit of extra money. Even if you started late, there is room in these accounts for you to set a little bit of money aside, right? If you're making a decent amount of money and you want to reduce your tax bill, that's quite a bit of money you can shelter from taxes and push it to the future, right? Like I mentioned, that 457 plan does have a special 457 catch-up provision. It would basically double that 23.5, so it would let you do 47,000 for the year. Um, but that's going to be kind of last resort if you've already maxed out both the 401k, 457. We do need to approve you for that. So there is a form that we need to fill out. But if you fall in that category, I'll definitely set up an appointment with the retirement plan advisor, and we'd be more than happy to help you get that set up as well. All right. So another big question I get is pre-tax versus Roth, right? What's the difference? So the easiest way I can put it is, when do you want to pay your taxes? Because at the end of the day, one of the things in life that we can never get away from is paying taxes, right? And so pre-tax is tax deferred. That means you get the tax benefit now and you're pushing off paying your taxes till later. But every penny of that money will be taxable at some point in time, right? So as you take it out, you're going to pay taxes on it. If you pass away and your beneficiaries get that money, they're going to pay taxes on it. So somebody's going to pay taxes on that money no matter what. Okay. For Roth, you pay the taxes out of your paycheck now, and after 59 and a half, all the earnings that it accumulates and grows in the market over the years will be tax free. But it does have to remain there till at least 59 and a half or over. If you're within 5 years of 59 and a half, then it has to stay there for at least 5 years. But then after that, um, it'll be tax free money, right? So if you have a lot of time on your side, you have a lot of time to invest and let that money grow. Roth really helps you out. If you don't want to worry about taxes in the future, Roth helps you out. If you want to reduce your tax bill now, then pre-tax is going to be your best friend, right? So we're not tax advisors. We can't give you tax advice. All we can do is give you education on the differences between the two. Ultimately, you're the one that has to make that decision and decide whether you want the tax benefit now or do you want the tax benefit later. All right. This little chart here is just going to show us the power of increasing our contributions, right? And also time. So this is a hypothetical, right? So it's only assuming a 6% annual return, compounded monthly. That's kind of middle of the line. That's like a moderate portfolio. Most of you should be in a moderate aggressive or above. So your returns are most likely higher than that 6% year over year. So even at a moderate rate, if you take a look there, if you're only contributing $50 per pay period, over 10 years, you contribute $6,000. Potential growth, only about $2,000 difference there, right? Not a lot of growth. But even with just the $50 per month over your career, right? If we have a 30-year career, we put in $18,000 of our money, and then the market helps it grow to about $50,000. So even just doing $50 a month can still help it grow with time, right? But if we want it to grow a little bit faster, have a little bit more in retirement, then we want to think about increasing those contributions. So if we just triple it, right? So instead of going from 50, we go to 150. We look at that bottom line there. We contribute 18,000 over 10 years, and that can potentially grow to 24,000 in 10 years. Or if we look at the full career, right? We look at 30 years, we contribute 54,000 and we can potentially leave with 150. I also like using this chart to show the difference between pre-tax and Roth. So if we look at that 30-year, just because it has the biggest disparity in those values, let's look at the 30-year at 150, right? So if you did pre-tax, you would save taxes on your contributions, which is 54,000. So you wouldn't have paid taxes on any of that 54,000. But once you start withdrawing money, you're going to pay taxes on that full 150, right? So I tell people, would you rather pay taxes on 54 or would you rather pay taxes on 150, right? And so that's how you have to think about it too. If it was Roth, you would pay taxes on the 54,000 you contributed, but after 59 and a half, you can withdraw that full 150 and not have to pay any taxes on it anymore because you've already prepaid it on that 54,000. And that's the power of Roth over time. Now, if you don't have 30 years to invest, right? then the disparity is not so great, right? So if we look at the beginning there, the difference between 18,000 and 24,000, it's not too huge, right? If we look at the 6,000 compared to the 8,000, not a very big difference. But if we're planning on investing this money for the long term, and that's why I always say, right, the best friend of a Roth account is time because of that huge disparity between how much you put in and the potential for growth, right? All right. So fee wise, fees are really low. So both the 401k and the 457 are going to have uh, an administrative fee of $1.50 per month. That's a total of $18 per year. So super low fees, right? Besides that, not a lot of fees. If you get a loan, I think there's a fee there. But besides that, that's really it, unless you decide to get your account managed. So that is one thing that I will bring up. So you're already paying $1.50 if you have the 401k. If you decide to open the 457, that 457 is also going to have the 150. So you're going to be paying 150 a month in each of those accounts. So definitely think about it, right? If the 457 doesn't really make sense for you, there's no need to open another account that's practically identical and pay an additional fee for it. If the 401k works just fine, why not just keep the one account, right? So investment wise, like I mentioned, this is going to be your options. If you want to do it yourself, this is what you have to work with. Those core funds, that's going to be really good, highly rated mutual funds. We have some Vanguard funds, some Fidelity funds, and some BlackRock funds that you can use to create your own custom portfolio. So if you're pretty savvy with investments, you know how mutual funds work, and you want to create your own kind of investment portfolio, you can use the core funds to do that. Now, we don't have a huge selection. We basically have one in each category that's going to allow you to create a diversified portfolio, and that's it. So not a big selection, not because we don't have it available to us. It's because the state has only allowed us to use so many within the Tax Saver program. Now, if you want something a little bit easier, then you've got the default right there, the target date fund. That's going to be a pre-diversified option that's going to be based on your birth date, right? So the only criteria is your date of birth, and the target retirement date by default is going to be normal retirement age, which is 65. So if you don't plan on retiring at 65, you're probably already in the wrong target date fund. So you definitely want to take a look at that. But what it does is basically it's diversified. So it already has all types of investments in it. It's got US, foreign, real estate, large cap, mid cap, small cap, everything you can think of, right? So it's diversified. But not only is it diversified, it's also on a glide path. What that means is that the younger you are, the further you are from retirement, the more aggressive it is. And what we mean by aggressive is more stock exposure, right? So it's more volatile, but more potential for growth. The closer you get to retirement, that target date, right, whatever it may be, that risk level gradually starts going down on its own, right? So if you're 10 years away from retirement or 15 years away from retirement, it's gradually going to start going down. So instead of being in a very aggressive portfolio, then 20 years from retirement, you're going to be in an aggressive portfolio. And then 15 years away, you're going to be in a moderate aggressive, right? And then gradually it's just going to go down. It's going to reduce that stock exposure and increase that bond exposure, just to make sure that your account is not so volatile the closer you are to retirement and needing that money potentially, right? If you don't like either of those two options, you're a savvy investor, you know what you're doing, you know what you want to buy, you want to go buy Tesla, you want to go buy Amazon, right? You can open that self-directed brokerage account through Charles Schwab and transfer some money over and invest in whatever you want. Like I said, that's a little bit more risky because you're on your own, but it is an option. So if you do have any questions on that, feel free to reach out to us individually. We have some brochures online as well, but that's going to be a really good option. A lot of people say, well, why open it through here? Why wouldn't I just go to Charles Schwab or Fidelity and open one over there? The reason is because of the higher contribution limits. So even though it is a brokerage through Charles Schwab, it's still held within your 401k or 457, which allows those higher contribution limits. If you go open one on your own, you're going to have to open an IRA or a Roth IRA, and those contribution limits are only 7,000 if you're 49 and below, and 8,000 if you're 50 and above. So the contribution limits are lower if you go and do it on your own outside of the plan. All right. If you didn't understand anything I just said on that last slide and you're just like, you know what, I need help, we've got the managed account service and the free online advice. So it's going to be two levels of advice. One of them's free, one of them comes with a fee. But the online advice really just pushes the onus onto you. It's still a great option, but you have to take that responsibility of going in there, updating your profile, and requesting that advice on a periodic basis, or at least as life events happen, right? Why? Because we base the investment recommendations based off of your profile. So you're going to put in your target retirement age, your estimated ERS pension, a Social Security pension, any other sources of fixed income you may be having coming in, and your expenses. And then based on that information, it's going to say, okay, so we can make sure you have money for throughout retirement. This is the portfolio you should be in, right? But it's called point in time advice. What that means is that as soon as you request that advice, it's immediately obsolete, right? Because if you get married the next day or you have kids and you start planning for college, all these life events happen. Now that initial advice you got is now obsolete, right? So now you have to go in there, update your profile with these life events, and then it'll suggest another portfolio potentially be if you need money sooner, or maybe you got promoted and you're going to get a better pension and you're not going to need money till later on, then your risk level would go up, right? So you just need to make sure to go in there periodically and update that profile. The managed account is going to be similar, but you have us, right? So we're going to bug you at least once a year, sending you emails, phone calls, everything, letting you know, hey, it's time to set up this review. We're going to go through that profile with you. We're going to explain the ins and out of the retirement planner. We're going to help you with all of that to make sure that that investment advice is personalized to you, right? Now, the fee is not huge. It's going to be 0.35%. It's not for everybody, right? Some people don't want to pay any fees at all. But if you're the type of person that's willing to pay for it and you would be willing to pay for it even outside, this is going to be a relatively cheaper option, right? If you go to a financial advisor, whether it be Edward Jones, Raymond James, whoever it may be, they're usually charging about 0.75 to 0.85 for a generic portfolio. If it's a personalized portfolio that they pick themselves, that they manage themselves, it usually runs you upwards of 1%, right? And I know this because I did it. I was a retail advisor before I was here, right? So the monthly fee is going to be about 0.0292%. It is taken monthly, so it will fluctuate over time. It's a percentage of your account balance on the day that they check your account, and that's going to coincide with your birthday. So my birthday is August 3rd. So every third of each month, they would go in there, check my account, rebalance if necessary, and take that monthly fee, right? So some examples are down there. If you had $10,000 in assets, your fee for the month would be about $2.92. Now, once your account gets larger, since it is a percentage, you're also the fee's gonna grow as well. So at $50,000 in assets, your monthly fee is sitting at about $14.60. I know it seems big compared to the $2, but I can tell you, I mean, I can't even buy my kids McDonald's for $14. I mean, if we buy McDonald's for the family, it's going to cost me $20 to $30. So account management for $14.60 a month is really not a big price, right? If that's really what you're looking for. But yeah, I mean, it's a good option. Like I said, it's not for everybody, but it's definitely there. So if you're interested in that, you can sign up online, or you can talk to a retirement plan advisor and get you signed up we can get you signed up for that managed account program. All right. So withdrawals, a lot of people think that you have to take your money once you leave, and that's just not the case. You can leave your money with us and you get to keep everything. The low fees stay with us. You have your payout options, Texas Aver Advisor Service. So those advisory service fees, those advisory services that I just mentioned, those remain. So even if you're not signed up for the managed account program before you retire, you can still keep the option to sign up for it later, and that fee's not going to change, right? You can still change your investment options, right? Everything stays the same. The only difference is you can no longer add to it, right? Since it is an employer-sponsored plan, since you're no longer employed by the state, you can't add to it anymore, right? Now you can still roll over, right? So if you are a group one, you do retire early and you decide to start a second career, let's say you like our service better, you kept your accounts open with us. Once you retire from that second career, you can roll over that 401k back to this one if you wanted to, or vice versa. If you like theirs better, you can roll your money out of here into that plan, right? So that's always an option. If you still have your money with us by age, depending on your date of birth, for most of us here, it's going to be age 75. If you still have the money with you, with us, and it is tax deferred, so you haven't paid taxes on it, you're going to have to start paying those RMDs age 75 and beyond. No need to panic. We'll send you a letter. We'll let you know how much it is, and we'll send you the form so you can set it up on automatic. That way, it's automatically taken out of your account, and you don't have to worry about that. If you don't take your RMD, there is a 25% penalty on top of any taxes owed. So if you're sitting in the 20% tax bracket, you're actually going to end up paying 45% if on that RMD if you don't take it, right? Withdrawal wise, this is something that confuses a lot of people, right? Like I mentioned earlier. So people think that it's going to be lumped in with their ERS pension, and that's not the case. This is going to be its own separate thing. But here you can choose how to make those withdrawals. With ERS, right? I mean, if you're 5 years down the line, you run into some issues and you need some money, you can't call ERS for a cash advance. No, you're stuck getting the same payment that you're getting every month, which is great because it's for life. The downside is if you need more one month, you can't ask for more, right? With this, you can choose. If you want to do it periodically, you can choose to do monthly withdrawals, quarterly, semi-annual, or annual. But you have to keep in mind, this money does run out, or it can run out. It has the potential to run out. So the more you take and the larger amounts you take it in, the faster it will run out, right? The market can only do so much for you, right? If it's averaging 6% growth per year, but your withdrawals are averaging 10% of the account value, you're going to deplete that account, right? You can also do partial withdrawals. That's what most people do. They just take it as they need it. If they need to repair the house, they need to get a down payment for a car, they need to pay for some medicines, they got something going on in that point in time, they just need that money then. You can call us or go online, request that partial withdrawal, and leave the rest of the money invested. To be honest, that's what most people do. You can also do the lump sum withdrawal, but you have to be careful with that. If it is pre-tax money, it will be fully taxable in the year you take it. So let's say you made $100,000 for the year and your account has $100,000 by the time you retire, right? If you take it all out at once, you're going to get taxed that year like if you made $200,000, right? So you got to be careful. It is going to be a taxable event if it's pre-tax money, and it could potentially put you into the next tax bracket where you're paying a higher percentage of taxes. So if you're sitting at 22 before, it could potentially push you up to 24, right? So you're going to pay more in taxes than you otherwise would have needed to if you just kept your money there, or if you only took what you needed, or lastly, if you rolled over, right? So maybe you just don't like the phone calls, you don't like the virtual appointments, you want to go meet somebody in person, you have an advisor that you know, that you trust, been working with your family forever, you want to keep your money invested. You can always roll that money over, right? All you would have to do is open an IRA or a traditional IRA, Roth IRA, and request that rollover, right? Super simple, and it keeps the money at least not taxable for the time being. All right. Like I mentioned earlier, qualified Roth distribution doesn't matter if you're in the 401k or if you're in the 457. Roth money needs to stay in there till 59 and a half for it to be a qualified Roth distribution. The only other differences right there are if you pass away, beneficiaries get that money tax-free if it's Roth. If you are disabled, you can withdraw that money tax-free as well. All right, account information, beneficiary changes. Make sure you keep your beneficiaries updated, right? So a lot of people say, hey, I updated my beneficiaries with ERS. I should be good. Nope, that's wrong, right? So we have our own beneficiary forms. So you definitely want to take the time to check, make sure you have the beneficiary forms. You can find those online, or you can call customer service and they can send them out to you. For the time being, we don't accept electronic changes. So it is a paper form that needs to be printed, signed, and you can either upload it to the website, use the mobile app to upload it through there, or you can mail it back to us. Any profile changes, like changes of address, names, anything like that, will have to go through your HR and through ERS. Once they update it in their system, they'll send it over to us. Once you separate from service, you have to make sure to keep us updated because ERS stops sending us that information once you separate, and you have to make sure to call us if you have any changes. All right, here's going to be our national customer service number. That's going to be who you call for any technical issues. If you have issues logging in, you locked yourself out. If you have any questions on any loans, whether they be quotes, payoffs, anything like that, or withdrawals, any types of money movements, that goes through them, right? If you have questions on retirement planning, education on the 401k 457, increasing or decreasing contributions, that's going to be myself or the retirement planner in your area. Okay. And then, of course, the Tax Saver website is right there. Like I said, it's a great resource. If you haven't already checked it out, go on there and check it out. This is going to be a little site map there. So no matter what part of the state you're in, you're going to have a dedicated retirement plan advisor for yourself. West Texas, we've got Antonio. Up north, we got Mike. And Austin, we have two. We've got Nick and Danny there. And then we've got Daryl in the east. And like I mentioned, I cover all of the south. So I'll leave it there for a second, just in case you need to get some contact information there. That's going to be our numbers. You can reach out to us. You can send us emails. But really, the best way to set up an appointment is to go to the Texas Saver website. And before you log in, there's going to be a big purple box in the middle that says set up a virtual appointment today. You click on there, you click on the type of account you have, and it's going to pull up our calendar. Like that, we don't have a back and forth. We don't have phone tag. You can set up a time for us to give you a call that's going to be convenient for you and that we have available on our calendar, right? That's going to be it for my presentation. I appreciate for you sticking around. I know it's in late in the evening, right? I appreciate you giving me the time to speak today, and I will open it up for any questions regarding the 401k and 457.
Yeah, thank you, Francisco. I don't see any questions. I guess there's not a lot of this on here. We could maybe stop the recording, or if y'all want to ask any questions, we can do that.